Okay, my mom once disappeared for 3 or 4 days, and my brother, who at this point is like 17, has this girlfriend who doesn't wear a bra. And that's about all I remember about her, because my mom just said it made her look like a slut and her boobs was going to touch her belly button by the time she's 25. And my mom just said that she was just bad news. Her name was Miranda. Anyway, she and my brother ended up later breaking up because she made out with a guy with Down syndrome at the mall. So but besides Miranda, like being the biggest waste of my brother's time, my brother got in trouble because my stepfather David and my mom always bought marijuana with their paychecks, and my mom only made $90 a week because she was making $2.15 an hour as a waitress, and at this point the Olympics were over. She wasn't getting the big tips anymore. So we were kind of on, and my stepdad was only a Waffle House cook, so they made no money either. And it was very hard to get welfare because, according to my mother, if you're not black and you're not single, you're not going to get it. My mother was very bitter about welfare because she got rejected many times because they said, oh, well, you're making more tips than you're claiming on your form. And she's like, no, honest to God, I'm only making $90 a week. And they're like, well, why don't you find another job? And she's like, because I get paid every day in my tips, and I can do that. She's like, I can't go 2 weeks waiting for my first paycheck if I were to start somewhere else. So that was always what held my mom back. Anyway, and she and my grandma did not get along. But my stepfather, yeah, so he would go blow a lot of money on pot. And so my brother got arrested at the mall, the same mall that his girlfriend later was caught making out with a guy with Down syndrome. And and my brother went and he stole about $200 worth of Game Boys. I think he stole two Game Boys, 3 Game Boys. I don't know. It was about $500 worth of merchandise total. He stole some groceries. He stole some games themselves. And he just gave his best friend some video games and some Game Boys, and he brought groceries home that week. I don't know how he pulled it off, getting that much stuff out of the store. Well, he didn't exactly pull it off because he ended up getting arrested. And so he went to juvie. But after he got out of juvie, while I was in school, it takes forever for DFACs to take anyone in because they have to investigate to make sure you're really being abused. So around this time, my brother's like coming in and out with all this stuff. And then it was just really weird because my brother, like, he didn't really know what he... Okay, my brother, like, his upbringing was so chaotic. I mean, you heard the whole deal about my dad with the cats. Like, he just was, like, ready to get out of there. And when they see a girl doing those things, they're like, oh, you stole food. Is your family okay? But when you see a boy doing that, they're just like, oh, he's a fucking criminal. He's wearing baggy pants. So no one ever really helped my brother. My mom, because she wasn't making enough money, asked my brother to get a job when he turned 16 at Harold's Barbecue. And my brother got a job there, and he worked there, and my mom kept asking him to do more hours. He was working about 30 hours a week and going to school full time. At this point, his guidance counselors told him to just drop out because he couldn't support his family and go to school, and a GED was just as good as a diploma. I think that at that point, the social worker should have said, if he has to work this much to support his family, maybe he shouldn't be living with his family. Unfortunately, if you've already had a criminal charge of any sort, even if it's under juvenile law, you don't get to go into foster care. You just get to go back to a juvenile detention center. And basically eat for no reason. So you would go to YDC after already having served your time again for that. But yeah, so anyway, we missed a bunch of school, and then I went to court a million times because they couldn't figure out who was beating the tar out of me. Because I'd wake up and I'd go to school and I'd be covered in bruises, and I don't actually remember anything other than going to the court and the bruises themselves. There are photos of it, there are all that stuff. I don't remember it. I think I blacked it out. But yeah, I did go to court a lot. And finally, after all that time of going to court, they were like, oh, she shouldn't live there. So they sent me to go live with a family. That was interesting. And the lady that they sent me to go live with, now mind you, my mother and my father and my whole family and my grandmother were all very, very racist. And of course, when you're a little girl, you know, and you're a little 5-6-year-old girl, you just do what your parents say. You just mimic their behavior. No one had ever told me anything like that was wrong. Well, what they do is basically a police officer who my parents were already terrified of, and they told me that police officers were bad people. If we ever saw them, to go tell them. So a police officer shows up and takes me to go live with a black lady and won't let me call my mom. Now, I was told that if someone takes you and tries to make you sleep somewhere else, you are being kidnapped. Now, I called 911. I flipped out. And this lady's like, good grief, what the fuck is wrong with this child? Then I started pulling out some ammo. There were a couple of Hispanic kids there. There were a couple of all kinds of kids there. I called her a horrible name. And that was the end of that foster home. And then they sent me to a really bad foster home. But, yeah, and I was in some big bad group home, like with like 12 other kids at that point, because I basically just ruined a really good shot at a group home, because no one took the time to explain to 6-year-old Kelly she wasn't going home to live with mommy, that mommy was a crazy drug lord, and that daddy kills cats, and stepdaddy deals pot, so, and brother keeps on landing in juvie. So that's what happened. And yeah.
All right.